Sigmund Freud was born on May 6, 1856, in Freiburg in what is now the Czech Republic, into a modest Jewish family. His father, Jacob Freud, was a wool merchant, and his mother, Amalia, was considerably younger than her husband. Freud's childhood was marked by both warmth and tension. He grew up as the eldest surviving son of 8 children, a position that gave him a sense of responsibility and authority, but also exposed him to family rivalries and the pressures of expectation. Early experiences of illness, loss, and emotional intensity shaped his sensitivity to human vulnerability and the workings of the mind. Freud later described his childhood as both intellectually stimulating and psychologically fraught, a foundation for the insights that would define his later work. From a young age, Freud displayed extraordinary intellectual curiosity and determination. He excelled in school, showing aptitude in languages, science, and classical literature. He developed a particular interest in the natural sciences, attending the University of Vienna in 1873 to study medicine. There, Freud immersed himself in physiology, neurology, and experimental research, fascinated by the human body and the mechanisms underlying its functions. His early work involved meticulous observation and experimentation, laying the groundwork for his lifelong commitment to systematic inquiry, even as he increasingly turned his attention to the mind rather than the purely physical aspects of human life. Freud's medical training coincided with a period of rapid scientific discovery and social transformation. Vienna, the city of his youth and career, was a hub of culture, intellectual debate, and social tension. He witnessed a society grappling with modernization, industrialization, and the pressures of urban life. The contrasts between social order and psychological disorder, public civility and private anxiety, fascinated him. Freud began to perceive that human behavior could not be explained solely by reason, social norms, or biology. There existed deeper forces, often hidden, that shaped thoughts, desires, and actions. In the 1880s, Freud undertook specialized study in neurology, working under prominent physicians and conducting research on cerebral anatomy and nervous disorders. He became increasingly interested in hysteria and other conditions that lacked clear organic causes. Influenced by Jean-Martin Charcot in Paris, who demonstrated the effects of hypnosis on hysterical patients, Freud began to explore the idea that psychological processes could manifest physically. He recognized that fear, anxiety, and repression could produce symptoms without visible pathology, suggesting the existence of an unconscious dimension of the mind. Freud's collaboration with Joseph Breuer in the treatment of hysteria marked a turning point. Using a method they called the talking cure, they observed that patients' symptoms often diminished when unconscious conflicts were brought to consciousness. This work led to Freud's early theories of repression, defense mechanisms, and the role of unconscious desires in shaping behavior. He concluded that much of human thought and action is motivated by forces that lie outside awareness, and that fear, guilt, and unresolved desires exert a powerful influence on daily life. By the late 1890s, Freud began publishing extensively, developing the foundations of psychoanalysis. He introduced concepts such as the id, ego, and superego to describe the structure of the psyche, and he theorized that human development is deeply shaped by early childhood experiences. He proposed that repression of instinctual drives, particularly sexual and aggressive impulses, underlies neurosis. Freud's work challenged prevailing assumptions about rationality, morality, and social conformity, suggesting that civilized behavior is the product of constant negotiation with unconscious desires and fears. Freud's ideas were controversial from the outset. They threatened conventional morality, the authority of religion, and the certainty of scientific positivism. Many contemporaries viewed his theories of infantile sexuality, repression, and the unconscious as shocking, immoral, or pseudoscientific. Freud responded to criticism with persistence, continuing to refine his methods, publish case studies, and train a growing network of followers across Europe. He emphasized that psychoanalysis was both a clinical practice and a philosophical approach to understanding human existence. Throughout his career, Freud faced personal struggles alongside professional challenges. He suffered from persistent health problems, particularly dental issues, that required repeated surgeries and contributed to chronic pain. He also endured the deaths of his father and several close friends, events that intensified his preoccupation with mortality, fear, and human suffering. These personal experiences reinforced his understanding of anxiety, grief, and repression, providing material for reflection and analysis. Freud's own life, in a sense, became a laboratory for exploring the intricate dynamics of mind, emotion, and behavior. Freud relocated his practice to Vienna, where he established a clinic and trained numerous disciples. His work with patients revealed the pervasive influence of unconscious fear, childhood trauma, and internalized social expectations. He argued that mental illness is often the result of unresolved conflicts, that repression of instinctual drives produces both psychological and physical symptoms, and that bringing unconscious material to awareness can alleviate suffering. Freud's methods involved careful listening, interpretation of dreams, and attention to free associations, emphasizing the interplay between desire, fear, and self-understanding. In addition to clinical work, Freud wrote extensively on theory, culture, and civilization. He examined the role of religion, morality, art, and society in shaping consciousness and repressing instinctual drives. In works such as The Interpretation of Dreams, Civilization and Its Discontents, and Totem and Taboo, he argued that humans are caught between innate desires and social constraints, producing anxiety, guilt, and a persistent tension between freedom and repression. Freud's analysis extended beyond the individual, exploring the structures of power, authority, and control in shaping human experience. The rise of Nazism in the 1930s forced Freud, a Jew, to flee Vienna. In 1938, he settled in London, where he spent his final years continuing his research, writing, and reflection. Despite deteriorating health due to oral cancer, he remained intellectually active, dictating works and corresponding with students and colleagues. He faced mortality with the same analytic rigor that he had applied to the mind, arranging for his life and work to persist beyond immediate circumstances. Freud died in 1939, leaving a body of work that transformed the understanding of psychology, culture, and human nature. Freud's legacy is complex. He revealed the hidden dimensions of the mind, the influence of fear, repression, and unconscious drives on thought and behavior, and the moral and ethical challenges of self-knowledge. His life was marked by intellectual brilliance, personal struggle, and the constant confrontation with human suffering. Freud's insights reshaped medicine, literature, philosophy, and social theory, demonstrating that understanding the mind requires both scientific rigor and a willingness to confront the uncomfortable realities of desire, anxiety, and repression. More than 80 years after his death, Freud is remembered not only as the father of psychoanalysis, but as a thinker who confronted the darkest corners of human consciousness. His work insists that fear and repression are inseparable from experience, that understanding oneself demands courage, and that the mind is both a source of creativity and a field of conflict. Freud's life exemplifies the tension between insight and torment, theory and practice, showing that intellectual achievement is inseparable from the ethical and emotional demands of existence.